Hey, how you doing, everyone? Welcome back to Big Frog's 4x4. This week, I'm working on a family member of mine, Chevy Cobalt. This is a 2010 with an automatic transmission, but the same engine as our 2009. Today, we're going to be putting on a set of valve cover gaskets. We are going to start by removing your engine cover. Always blow dirt out of here because to pull this cover, you have to pull your oil cap. And you don't want dirt falling down in there when you pull the cover. So take a vacuum, suck it out, or take a blowgun and blow all that out of there. I always take my oil fill cap, even when I'm changing the oil, and I lay it on the hook, the latch here for your hood. And that way there's no chance that you're closing the hood and forgetting to put your oil fill cap back on. And this just has rubber grommets up here that slide down over spots of the engine. One there and here, and it kind of just pops on. Now I'm going to put my oil fill cap back on. Now you're going to want to pull your intake housing and stuff here off. You don't need to take your top air cleaner off. You don't have to unplug your ass airflow sensor. Just take the clamp loose here and off the top of your throttle body, and you kind of work that up and off. There's a hose right here that has to come off. That needs to be pulled. I find it easier to pull it here than it is from here, so I'm going to move this clamp back, and we'll pull this up and then kind of slide it forward. I highly recommend a set of these silicone mats. I got this set on Amazon for $30, $35, something like that. Came with 3 mats. That one came with a magnetic strap that you can put on your wrist that has magnets in, so you can put pieces there. I was working on another project earlier. I was stripping down washing machines and stuff for scrap, and that's all the bolts from that. So I used here's the big tray. And then you get this little tray. Very nice. I'm very happy with these. I bought a set for here and for work, and a set for a guy at work. And he absolutely loves them. I love them. And for the price point, you really can't go wrong. You got spots to put sockets or little pieces, bits. You can lay extensions across here. It has notches and the cutouts for extensions. Just absolutely love these little trays. So back here underneath, on top of the throttle body, there's one clamp that needs to be loosened. And then you have one clamp here. Maybe I have to just gently work on that back and forth a little bit. And carefully kind of work it up and off. Now at this point, I'm going to throw a rag over top of your throttle body. That way if you drop anything, it's not going to end up accidentally falling down in there, nothing small. Your throttle plate is closed, but just in case, just to be safe, I like to throw something over that. Recently, I've been in here already, and if you're familiar with these cars, or a lot of GM cars really, this plastic wire harness cover, it gets brittle and falls apart. So I went through and re-wrapped all the wire harnesses from here all the way down, here, all the way up across with this, it basically wraps around wire loom. Much, much nicer than this hard plastic stuff. Holds up better, and it conforms and bends a lot easier. So I highly recommend if you need to rewire loom something to get this stuff, I'll put a link in the description below for this, and I'll put it in the description for these trays. If you want to find those on Amazon, check the description. And you need 10 millimeter and a flathead screwdriver. You're going to have to pop all the connections off of your coils. You also need to remove the plugs off of your sensors. If you're worried about getting those plugs backwards, you could always mark one with a paint pen, and that way you remember which one goes to which one. Alright, with these, take a flathead screwdriver, you can put it in here, just kind of gently walk it back and forth. And then you should be able to just press in. Oh, they're stuck. There it goes. That's what Pennsylvania dirt does to you. Oh, good grief. Man, they're tight. A little bit of a pointer. If you're a person that has a problem with remembering where bolts go, some people use Ziploc bags. I kind of like using these containers. You can set the dividers the size you want. Then you get a piece of paper, label them, and put them in there. Especially on big jobs or jobs that you know you're not going to get back to in a week or two, so you don't forget where things go. Put your bolts, divide them out, label them, and that way it's easier to put the job back together and a lot quicker. The other nice thing about one of these trays is you can kind of have your little compartments. You can divide out different bolts. The coil should just gently pull up and out. I like to put them in the same order I take them out, so I'm going to take them out and lay them in order up here. Right now I'm going to look down in there. There ain't nothing in there that's going to cause any issues. Again, you squeeze right here and they should pop off. Oh boy. Man, they're all tight. And this just presses down in here, so you kind of just work it and wobble it off. And we got one over here. And one that slides over the nut or stud back here. I'm going to unplug the mass airflow sensor just to give me a little bit more room. Gives you a little bit more play room with the harness there. And we're just going to look over and see what all else needs to come off. I've never done this job before. This is the first time doing one of these. So I'm just kind of looking over it here. I don't think that's really going to be in the way any. I think that's it. We got to take off this fuel line here, which I think I'm just going to take off the two bolts here. These are all 10 millimeter. And wherever I can, I always put the bolts back in where I take them out. You can't do that in every spot, obviously, but I like to try. And you put them back in their spot, then you have less to worry about figuring out where they go back in at. So I'm find something to pry against. There it goes. Now this will expose your timing chain and stuff. So while you're got this off, you want to just kind of take a glance at that and see if you see any problems with any of the cam teeth or anything. Stuck. Been on here for 200,000 miles. The reason we're replacing this is because oil is leaking down into the spark plug holes. Really stuck on there. Alright, so apparently this bracket here has to come off that you would normally put a chain on to support the engine or pull the engine or whatever you need to. That's apparently going to have to come off. It looks like a 13 millimeter. Might not have to come all the way off. It might just have to be loosened enough to get it out of the way. And there's two of them back here. The only problem with the flex head ratchet sometimes is you try to get something on, it wants to flex, wants to flip. Well, they weren't very tight. Not even tight enough for me to turn with the ratchet. Broke them loose a little bit and that's it. Hand in there. Got a question for everybody if you want to leave it in the comments down below. For any of the mechanics out there. If you could lose one of your senses and still be a mechanic, which one would it be? I think for me, it would be the sensitivity of touch, the sense of touch. I think I could do my job without touch. It would be difficult because there's a lot of things we do that we have to be able to feel. But I don't think we can really be a mechanic without all the others. Obviously, it'd be really hard to be a blind mechanic. Maybe speech might actually be the best. If you couldn't talk, you could probably still be a great mechanic. Because then you could type it. You could write it, or whatever, your communication, but... Still going to hit that bracket. Apparently that's going to have to come off the whole way. Oh, now it gets hard to turn. There's one. There we go. So there's one thing over here. There we go. Ah, now the old gasket's stuck. Now I'm kind of just going to examine everything. I'm going to look at all my cam lobes for the valves, make sure there's no scoring or excessive wear or buildup of any kind on any of those. You already have it off, so you might as well just look at everything in here. These are the seals that are leaking, and it's letting oil down into the spark plug hole. Now I recently just cleaned that out, so there's none in there now. But there was. Be careful not to score the aluminum, so that'll give it a place to leak. As you can see over time, these things just get brittle. They no longer will flex and move with heat and temperature, and they just start to leak and crack, cause issues. Be gentle. Said I'm not pushing hard on the aluminum. I don't want to scratch that all up. Put any big scratches in it. Just kind of working it underneath there. The rest of that can be thrown away. I'm going to go along with a clean towel. Wipe off all my sill surfaces. So again, trying to be careful not to knock any of these long pieces of carbon or something down in the engine here. Take your time. Make sure that you get this as clean as possible. Especially back in here where it's hard to get into. Well, I was unable to find an exact torque sequence for this online. So I'm just going to kind of start here and I'll work my way at alternating patterns all the way around. To speed things along, I am going to just kind of run them all down. I'll start here. I just ran them down until I saw it just start to pull the valve cover down. Like I said, I'm just going to go cross pattern, back and forth. I don't think you want to watch me do all this, so I said boom, boom. Then I'll come over to this one. Then I'll go over to this one. And I'll just keep going back and forth like that. Then I'll come over here, then over here, and then these, and I'll be done. Alright, now I'm going to take a clean, flat razor just to remove the old stuck-on gasket. There again, I'm not taking any angles. You're going to try to be there as smooth on the aluminum as possible. Like I said, you don't want to really score the aluminum. Once you have the head of the engine, the whole seal surface completely clean, sprayed some brake clean on a rag, wiped it all clean, wiped it all dry. You can install your gasket all the way around. these 3 bolts, the steel sleeve pops through the gasket. So hold that down and push that through. All 4 of your steel sleeves for these bolts also push through and pop into the gasket. So make sure you have those fully seated through the gasket before you put it on. I took a air hose and blew all the loose carbon away. Didn't scrape anything. I just blew all the loose carbon. To replace these rubber grommets in these bolts, I put lithium grease around the base. This is the rubber grommet that goes around them. There's a steel sleeve that goes through it. I put lithium grease on the steel sleeve, sat the bolt in the steel sleeve on top of the workbench, a 14 millimeter socket here, fits really well, perfectly on there. You smack it with a dead blow hammer or a rubber mallet and they'll pop down on. And then I smear grease around the outside and then work it and push it and wobble it through until it seats into the valve cover gasket here. You'll know they're fully seated when they actually stay in. You see none of them fall out on their own. I actually had that all recorded, but my memory card got full and it didn't record any of it. So just kind of explaining it to you. The next thing I do is I put a thin layer of white lithium grease on all of these seals. That way, with heat and expansion and movement and control and stuff, that these will be able to move just a tiny, they're not going to move a lot, just a little bit, and keeps everything lubricated and helps keep everything sealed. Some people told me it wasn't necessary. I do it because I figure it doesn't really hurt anything. So I figure it's better to do it than not do it. And I just go along and just put a thin coat of, like I said, the white lithium grease on here. And we'll just go all the way around and make sure it's all covered. Alright, once you have all your gasket lubricated, double check and make sure you didn't drop anything down in there. No screws, nothing fell down in the engine. And you can flip this over. And you're going to want to carefully kind of fish this down through here. Make sure all your plugs are out of the way there. And I kind of always just move it around. That way you can feel if there's anything that might have dropped underneath. You'll feel it. And then go through and start all of your screws by hand. Don't run them on with power tools, because if you cross thread these, you're going to make a really huge headache. So don't try to speed it along and run these on with power tools of any kind. Always start your threads by hand. And just to make sure that they are all started, you can pull up on them. If they pull out, you know you didn't get the thread started. I'm looking at both these sensors, and it looks like they're different plugs, so you really can't get them backwards. And looks like we're ready to torque the valve cover down. Now, according to torquespec.com, you torque these down in a cross pattern at 89 inch-pounds. So 89 inch-pounds. Well, I was unable to find an exact torque sequence for this online. So I'm just going to kind of start here, and I'll work my way at alternating patterns all the way around. Like I said, I'm just going to go cross pattern, back and forth. I don't think you want to watch me do all this, so I said boom, boom. Then I'll come over to this one. Then I'll go over to this one. And I'll just keep going back and forth like that. Then I'll come over here, then over here, and then these, and I'll be done. Once you have those all torqued, I go over all of them again a second time, just to make sure that none of them came loose as you drew it down, or that you missed one. So going all over it a second time. Then you can start plugging your sensors back in. Put your wire harness back into place. You can put your bracket back on over here. And I just tightened them up, not real tight, because they weren't really tight to come off. So I made them a little tighter than they came off, but I didn't really work them tight. Then we're going to pop our coils back in. And again, start all those by hand. And then I'll torque these down the same as what the rest of the valve cover was. 89 inch-pounds. Then you got your brackets over here that need to go back on. For your fuel line. You snug them up. They're tiny little 10mm bolts, so you don't need them really tight. Plug all your coils in, and then press in all your locks. Take the rag off our intake. or off of our throttle body there and check it. It looks good. Well, we're going to put our intake tube back on. If this seems a little difficult to push on, you can put a little bit of grease on here. You don't want to get it up in the throttle body, so just kind of put a little bit on the edge, or you can put it on the outside of the throttle body, and that'll help push on. Don't forget to put your breather hose on. Look underneath here. Gonna work it around. Can be a pain, a little bit of a pain, anyways. Get that all lined up. But once it's on, it should just slide right on easy. That should slide on. Get your clamp. Tighten these clamps. And they just get snug. They're not like a coolant line where they have to be real tight. They just need to be snug. Remember, especially on this one, you're tightening over top of plastic and you can crack it. So, again, just snug so it doesn't fall off. Take your oil cap back off. Make sure that's in there tight. And you want to watch your dipstick as it comes up through the hole. I line up this back rubber grommet. Get a light. That one popped on, and that one popped on. All good. I kind of took a glance at the O-ring for the oil cap. It looked good, and that's it. Now you are going to want to drive this a little bit, maybe 10, 15 miles or something, and just check and make sure that check engine lights, make sure you didn't miss anything, make sure there's no oil leaks. Then drive it maybe another 100, 150 miles and check it again. And just make sure that everything is good, everything's proper, and you have no leaks underneath there. But other than that, that's how you do the valve cover gasket. Thanks for watching Big Frog's 4x4. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Hit that bell down there if you want notified of each video as it comes out. And as always, God bless.